new opportunities and new, paths to a new passion sometimes won't open up until you let something go. I had told myself at that period of time when I was still painting and not happy at the end, I was like, I don't want to do commercial art. I don't want to wait tables anymore. I don't want to, teach anymore. I had built all of these brick walls on either side of me that basically left me no alternative of what to do. So I kind of came to a point in my life where it was like, I was really distressed. I was very depressed. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And until I let go of some of those things, this whole other world couldn't open up.
Hey Feasters, and welcome to the third episode of season 3 of Living the Feast. Today we've got an awesome show for you with Philip VanDusen. Philip is a YouTuber with probably now over 125,000 subscribers, but he's more than just that. And I'm Jason. And if you're new to the show, Live in the Feast is a podcast for freelancers looking to build a profitable business and get recurring revenues so that they can live the life they design. If you aren't new to the show and enjoy what we do here, why don't you go onto iTunes and hit that subscribe button so you get notified as soon as the episode drops. Now, as I said, Philip is more than your average YouTuber. He's a world-renowned brand strategist, trained as a painter, and has designed the #1 t-shirt that's been sold worldwide. Yep, I didn't know this either, and I've known Philip for a few years now. We both live in the New York area and met on many occasions. He's the owner of Verhaal Brand Design, and we dive into where that name comes from. You'll learn, just as I did, how Philip thinks about careers as a web rather than a ladder, and how he's navigated a very diverse and amazing career. He also shares with us some of his thoughts on how he's resolved some very tough times in his amazing life. So let's dive in. This episode is brought to you by Feast, the premium online coaching and community designed for web developers, designers, marketers, and freelancers of all type wanting to specialize their business and build recurring revenue that's profitable and sustainable. Today's market is ever-changing, and yesterday's advice won't cut it. Feast members get access to the roadmap and training library, which includes everything you need to niche down, build recurring revenue, and become that go-to respected person for your services. That, together with monthly roundup calls, exclusive workshops, expert chit-chats, and our Slack community, you'll have everything you need to live the life of your own design. If you're serious about not competing on price and having clients that respect you and your expertise, then join Feast. Head over to feastcourse.com today. Hey Feasters, today's featured guest is Philip VanDusen. Welcome, Philip.
Hey, Jason. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Philip has 20 plus years in strategic branding, graphic design, and product development. He is the founder of a strategic design and branding consultancy. He also has a very, very successful YouTube channel as well. He just passed 100,000 subscribers, which to me is mind-boggling of my 23 subscribers. So I'm sure we'll unpack that a little bit too. Philip, obviously I did not do justice to that. Why don't you just tell us a little bit more about who you are and why you do what you do?
Sure. I started off actually as a fine artist. I have a master's degree in painting, of all things. And I started my career teaching, actually, at the college level, teaching drawing and teaching painting. And I did that for a number of years. And then I was teaching at a school in the south of France and came back to the United States and moved to New York. And I put a bunch of my designs on T-shirts and sold them around street fairs and walked the entire island of Manhattan looking for stores that would sell my shirts. And I kind of fell into the apparel industry through doing printmaking, essentially, when I was in France. And so anyway, so I've I moved my way through a number of positions in the apparel industry, and over time became a creative director and managing teams of people. And so I've worked on both the corporate side in fashion retail as well as consumer packaged goods. And I've also held a couple senior creative roles at global branding agencies, so strategic design agencies. So I've kind of worked on both sides of the street. And as you said, I've been in this industry for, 25 plus years, and just in the last couple of years have struck out on my own and started my own consultancy that's called Verhaal Brand Design. Verhaal is spelled with 2 A's. It's a Dutch word that means story. And because story is so important to branding, and my family is Dutch, it just seemed like a authentic thing to call it. And, so I've been doing that and bringing strategic branding to entrepreneurs and small to medium-sized businesses for the last few years.
That's awesome. I love that. I love hearing that where the name comes from. Like, it's like people ask me all the time, where's Res come from? And
right.
I've shared it a few times. And in short, it was really just my video game handle when I was a kid. And at that time, I was a sophomore in college or something like that. And you could make a website in the computer lab and all this and that. And people were buying domain names. And at that point, I was like, I don't know what that, I don't know. All right, I'll just make res.com. And, and it's, people are like, how the heck did you get a five letter domain name and like this and that and all that? I'm like, I got lucky, and it was an idiotic thing, and I'm just never going to change it. And so that's where it comes from, So it's funny how the origins of names come from. So, I mean, painting is that something that you still do to this day? Do you do this regularly still, or?
I don't paint regularly. I do sketch because I do hands-on design. So I sketch ideas before I go to the computer on them, and I also draw recreationally, I guess you would say. And I'm planning on getting back to painting one of these days. But it was a major turning point in my life when I moved from fine art to kind of design in the business world. I love painting. I love the fine arts, but, design and strategy has been my life for a long time now. And I'm really passionate about that as well.
Yeah. And for those that you obviously can't see Philip now, but he has that quintessential painter look too, the mustache and the goatee and stuff. And definitely go check out his YouTube channel as well. I mean, he's got tons of great content on there. I don't know how you release it so often. I always get the notifications popping up. I'm like, I got to watch Phil's thing. And then another day goes by, and then another day goes by. I get another note. Okay, so now I'm 2 behind. And before I know it, I'm like 10 or 20 behind. I'm like, oh, geez, I can't even keep up with this. But I mean, how, we talked a little bit before the recording, and you're saying now that has so accelerated, or I guess qualified more of your business now than anything else at this point.
Yeah, I like to say I'm kind of the poster child for the success of content marketing. I started, and when I went out on my own, the first thing I did to kind of start with self-promotion is to develop an email list, which most people should do if they haven't. And so I was developing an email list and started a newsletter. So I started a newsletter that's called Brand Muse. And if anyone wants to subscribe, they can go to my website, philipvandusen.com/muse, M-U-S-E, and sign up. And I share, an insight, design and branding resources, kind of specific readings, books, things of value to designers and entrepreneurs. And I did that for a while as a self-promotional thing. I still do that. It comes out every 2 weeks. And after about a half a year of doing that, I decided to get into video and start to share what I know and have learned over my career on YouTube. And it's kind of a number of different approaches to it. One, I wanted to kind of capture everything I knew and have learned. I also wanted to share it with other people. I'm very much a teacher still at heart. And I also knew that it was, content marketing. It was inbound marketing to attract attention to me and my brand and my agency. And so I made the, decision to release a video a week. And I did that for the first year. And now I've done it for over 2 years and have over 100 videos on YouTube. And I think I literally missed 1 week where I didn't post on Monday. And, YouTube, it rewards you for consistency. So posting on a very regular basis, YouTube will elevate you in organic search on YouTube. And also your engagement with your channel. So whenever I receive a comment, and I've received, tens of thousands of comments, I have responded to every single comment that I've ever gotten. Wow. Even if it's just, thank you so much for watching this video. And YouTube as well will, elevate you in search the more you are engaged with your audience. And I also just like engaging with my audience because I like to find out what they like, what they don't like, what their problems are, and how I can better, serve them. So YouTube, as you said, it's turned into a significant new business driver for me. People see my videos. They can see, I know what I'm talking about. I have a lot of experience, and then they will then come to me for, brand strategy or design or professional coaching.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was curious if you were making videos, because I think what a lot of people do, I don't want to say wrong, but the wrong path, so to speak, of content marketing, they talk to peers more than they talk to clients, let's say. And I was definitely curious because, a lot of your videos are not just sharing just what you know about design and brand strategy and such, but I feel almost like I'll watch developer videos to learn from them so that I can apply to my business, if that makes sense. And I'm curious, is that what your audience and your client, is that what your client would be? Are they designers that would learn from your expertise in coaching, or are they really looking for the brand strategy and such?
It's there's an overlap. I think it's a perfect Venn diagram of entrepreneurs and business people and designers. Designers need to learn business. They need to learn strategy. They need to understand the needs of their clients in order to deliver the best work for their clients. So educating designers on how to better understand strategy, how to better work with their clients, how to, be more efficient in what they do, how to get more clients. That helps them. And then the brand strategy piece of it that I share, and, personal branding, marketing ideas, content marketing ideas serve the entrepreneurial, audience that I have. And all of those kind of business development, and business building methodologies also serve graphic designers because they are building their own businesses as well. So my audience is really pretty much split between graphic designers and business people or entrepreneurs who are looking to use design and brand strategy to benefit their businesses. And so that's really kind of the cornerstone of what I do is how do you use design and smart brand strategy to build a better business, get more customers, and be more successful. And so, my particular expertise and history is in being a designer and, for a long period of time, managing large teams of designers. So I know how to, guide them through their careers and their growth and their growing pains. And then also how to teach them to better work with clients and how to teach clients how to better understand and utilize what designers do for them to build their businesses. So it really is kind of an interlocking information that I share.
Yeah. The common thread throughout all of that is the teaching.
Yeah. I definitely I hear that a lot. I mean, I come across as a teacher because of, I don't know, maybe it's my unicorn mix of the right and the left brain, or the fact that I was a teacher and I've presented to so many people throughout my entire career that I just come across as kind of a professorial type. But it works for me, and it works for my audience. So that's fine.
Yeah, no, that's great. So I love to ask and get a window into the stories behind people. Anybody that we've met in person, and we're a part of an entrepreneurial community called Upreneur. But what would you consider your defining moment in life so far?
I mean, you thankfully gave me a heads up on this before asking me that, because otherwise my jaw would just be on the ground. And that's, obviously a really, really big question. I think, there are professional, watershed moments, and there are also personal watershed moments, I think. And the one that I see that kind of overlaps both of those is that, and this is something I think maybe some of your listeners could relate to, is, not all career paths are linear, right? We take jogs to the left, to the right. I like to call it a career web rather than a career ladder, because a web is much stronger than a ladder. And all of the side jogs and decisions and changes we make in our careers that may not be linear, actually, if we utilize them, can make our career path stronger. And the one really big defining moment, I think, in my career was that throughout my entire youth and up until the time through college, through grad school, I defined myself as a fine artist, as a painter. After I got my master's degree, I wanted to teach. I taught for a while. I found it to be an incredibly difficult career to make a living in. And at the time when I was doing it, it was massively competitive. And so the reality set in that this might not be the best career path. And so I continued painting, moved to New York, and then, as I said, started my own apparel company, and then starting to work as a creative manager, a creative director with other apparel companies. And at that period of time, I decided my paintings, and I painted on a large scale in oil, and it was like 5 by 6 foot canvases. And, I had this huge studio set up in my loft. And there came a point where I realized I hadn't touched my fine artwork in 7 months, and it was just staring at me. And I felt like it was saying I was a failure, when actually really what it was saying was that this is not your focus anymore. And so I made a decision at one point, and it was, I'll be honest with you, it was a very gut wrenching and difficult decision to make, to literally unstretch every painting I'd ever done and roll it up and pack everything up in boxes. And I took it to New Jersey and stored it in my parents' attic. And I basically made the decision that painting wasn't serving me anymore. And the way I made it safe for myself to make this decision was, I said, at any point you can go get that stuff and start painting again if you want, when you feel like it's going to serve you. But what that did for me is it kind of cleared the deck, so to speak, for me to embark on a new journey and learn new things. And this is right when the Macintosh had been this. I'm completely dating myself now. This is right when the Macintosh had come out. And so, I rented a Mac with software on it, which was totally illegal to do at the time. And I started learning Photoshop and Illustrator and doing apparel graphics and doing some graphic design freelancing on the side. And I loved it. I mean, I just fell in love with doing computer graphics and learning the computer and learning these applications. And I was like a fish in water. I mean, it was just breathing. I found great pleasure in like reading those 500-page Photoshop manuals at night. That's like what I did. And so by letting go of this one thing that I had personally kind of defined my entire personality around for a long period of time in my life, by giving that up and moving on to something new, I found an entirely new passion, and something that eventually, formed a a very long, successful, and lucrative career for me in the commercial art world. So for me, that was a watershed moment in my life, because it really set me up for the next 25 years of my career.
Wow. Yeah, I can only imagine what that process of pulling the paintings off the wall, so to speak, and packing them away, especially if that was what you were all about, right? And to have the wherewithal to say, like, this isn't serving me at this present time. I mean, for lack of a better term, it's a grown up moment, right? Like, you're being an adult there, because even though that those things were tied to you and how you grew up as a man, so to speak, right, through college and such, you were like, okay, this just isn't working anymore, and I'm going to push this aside for now, and then move forward in this new direction and see where it takes me.
And I think it's the hardest for creatives, like you and me and fine artists, actors, people who do film, because when we're coming through school, we're told you're an artist. This is who you are. And if you ever stop doing it, you never were. And so to a certain extent, you feel like if you were changing paths, that it's, that you don't have somehow permission to do it. And making that shift was like giving up my entire personality. And that was a very difficult thing to adjust to. And so making that choice, then I had to realize, I basically had to teach myself that, making this massive change in my life and taking a new path that I was very passionate about was not who I was. I was not a painter that was no longer a painter. I was just a painter who now found a new passion in design, and I was putting my creativity and my passion into a new medium, rather than not being an artist because I put my paintbrush down. So I think that, the lesson for me and the lesson for other people and the listeners is that, new opportunities and new, paths to a new passion sometimes won't open up until you let something go. I had told myself at that period of time when I was still painting and not happy at the end, I was like, I don't want to do commercial art. I don't want to wait tables anymore. I don't want to, teach anymore. I had built all of these brick walls on either side of me that basically left me no alternative of what to do. So I kind of came to a point in my life where it was like, I was really distressed. I was very depressed. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And until I let go of some of those things, this whole other world couldn't open up. And as soon as I did, it did open up, and it's made, it's given me an absolutely incredible life.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, as a developer, and I always will call myself a developer, right? Just because I feel that for one, that's my passion. I love creating something that's abstract in somebody's mind and being able to turn that into something that's tactful on a screen, essentially. But what I do with my clients, a lot of development is maybe only 35 to 50% of what I do. Right. And I've kind of chiseled the development aspect of my business down to that. And other developers ask me all the time, they're like, well, but you're in WordPress. I go, yeah. And that was a tool that I used. I was also, before WordPress, I did Ruby on Rails, and before Ruby on Rails, I did Java. I mean, it's what the tool of the time that you're solving the problems with, right? Like, whether it's your clients or your own or whatever the problems that you're solving. And, people are like, yeah, but I love Ruby on Rails development. I'll always be a Ruby on Rails developer. That's okay. That's fine.
Until you're not. Right, exactly.
Until somebody tells you that you're not. And, and it's, some of my coaching clients, they sometimes I get pushback. They're like, but, WordPress is terrible, right? I can't do what I need to do inside of WordPress and such. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You don't have to take me as a WordPress developer. I'm actually trying to, help you, specialize your business, build recurring revenue, and put the processes in place to build those things. And for me, WordPress worked. For you, it could be Ruby on Rails. For you, it could be, design. For you, it could be writing, right? And, it's just, that's the tool aspect. And I think a lot of people get, unfortunately hung up on that aspect, that they've identified so heartedly at that. And that's becomes an albatross. It eliminate, it's a limiting thing.
Exactly.
That they hold on to. And, it's a struggle, right? Like that's a real struggle.
But I think your point is well taken, that it's to a certain extent, I mean, this is kind of, bombastic to say, but it's kind of dangerous to define yourself by your tool, because the tools in today's society anyway change every 5 seconds. So your ability to, I think it's better to identify with that underlying creativity or underlying passion of, I engineer things, and whether that's I engineer a website or I engineer a design or I engineer a brand, rather than I am, the Photoshop expert, or I'm a Premiere Pro expert, or whatever it is. That there's a certain amount of, you kind of have to back up from the tool and say, what is the underlying motivation? And that's what you are.
Yeah. And that goes along with, on the flip side of it is as a freelancer, business owner, solopreneur, or even agency owner, you have to figure that out for your clients, right? I talk a lot about clients' wants versus needs, right? Sometimes they come to me and they say, well, I want a new redesign. Okay, well, whether you want one and need one, let's figure that out, right? And, and I'm pretty straightforward with them, and I say that, and they're like, well, what do you mean want and need? I said, well, what's the problem? Why do you think you need a redesign? Is there, and you kind of just unpack that with them. And then you come to find out that they're just not getting their sales through their website. Well, then that could be a smaller problem on the web design side and a bigger problem on either your sales team side, or just is the site working, like these other things, right? Like those are the needs. We need to fix those things. So, it's just same thing. Like don't get hung up on the tool, right? And I always, we talked about, you said mantra, right? Earlier on. And one of my mantras is let the business define technology, not the other way around. Right. And that to me has been something that I've learned early on because of that thing. Like I knew that, well, I learned HTML back when it was tables, right? Like, and you use things like Front Page and Dreamweaver to build websites and Home Site and all of these archaic things that were tools that folks lived by. Like I'm a Dreamweaver developer, or I'm a Front Page developer, and nobody uses those things anymore. That's not even how you make a website anymore. So it's like, I always say, like, let business drive the technology, not the other way around. Let's figure out what the business is and move forward from there.
And to your point about, solving the problem. I mean, I always like to talk about, being in branding and design as being a detective. As you said, a client could come to you and say, I need a new website. But then if you dig down and do some discovery and ask the questions, what they're looking for is more, maybe what they really want is more Facebook likes, or they want more, sales through a certain page of their website. And so what they might not need is a whole new website. They might need just new copy on their website. They might need, new consumer-centric communication. They might need a better content marketing plan that's going to drive them to a site that's working. They're just not getting the traffic. So looking and trying to work with the client to discover what the underlying problem is sometimes, the hardest part really of working with clients is you have to kind of dig into what the end result is that they're looking for. And then you have to be able to how to parse what the solution is. And that's kind of, that's where we come in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That's great. So the putting of the paintings away and that point in time in the timeline was, I guess, essentially a low point, right? For you. It was a struggle. It was, you mentioned that you were essentially depressed from everything. What would you consider your highest point in your career?
I think it was probably sitting on a Learjet flying to Milan to go shopping for work.
That's awesome.
I worked my way up through a number of t-shirt licensing and t-shirt companies, and eventually landed at a large global fashion retailer, and became a vice president of design. I oversaw 5 divisions of people, over 65 people in design and textile design and graphic design and packaging across a number of divisions in this company. And part of my job was to go trend shopping. And so I went to Tokyo, I went to Berlin, I went to Milan, I went to London quarterly to shop for trend and to discover trend for our product lines. And one of, I guess the Learjet thing it's a great story, but the reason it came about wasn't so great, which was 9/11, which is 9/11 happened about a week before we were due to go to Europe to go shopping. And as everyone knows, that massively disrupted air travel for a long period of time. And so in order to get there, the collection's got to come out. So in order to get there, we used the corporate jet and flew, around to a lot of cities in Europe to go shopping. And, that was, it was living the jet lifestyle. It was nice work. And if you can get it, I'll put it that way, so I think, working at that company and, having so many people on my team and, doing work that was all over the place. The work that we did, I designed the largest selling t-shirt in history, which was the Old Navy flag tee, which has sold more than 250 million t-shirts. We figured out we had to buy cotton futures in order to make that shirt because there wasn't enough cotton. We had to buy the fields of cotton to make the fabric to make those shirts. And we would sell, one year we sold enough that the 2% of the United States population had bought one. So it was, and everywhere you went, it was on people's chests. So I loved the fact that I could fly to Tokyo and walk around the streets of Tokyo going shopping for work and see a number of the designs of my team and mine walking around on people's chests. That was a high point when you really see your work out there and manifesting itself in the world. It's really, really exciting. I never get tired of that. I never get tired of going into a store and seeing, a package I designed on the shelf. It's just, I get giddy.
That's great. Yeah, that's awesome. I can only imagine. I've seen some sites that I've worked on, because I've worked on PGA, Gander Mountain, Canon, some crucial elements of those brands. Sure. And, once in a while, I'll catch it in the wild, whether it's on a commercial or, I'll see somebody using it. I'll be like, oh, yeah, I designed the back end of that. Or, what you're clicking to log into. Yeah, that's me. And it's just like a little fun little, hey, that's a great endorphin, like endorphin rush, just feel that. And yeah, so I can only imagine 2% of the world had that t-shirt. I can't believe that. That's crazy. That's awesome.
And I know the Learjet story was a little full of hubris, but really I think what the highlight of my career was over the long term, helping other designers advance in their careers. I worked really hard and learned a lot of new stuff through my career to get to where I was. And, I've hired hundreds of designers and interviewed probably thousands of designers and helped them grow in their careers, get better as designers, get better as business people, get better at navigating the matrixed environments of corporations and design agencies, and to learn and grow and get promoted and make more money and be happier in their careers. That to me is probably, what I would call the pinnacle of my career. The fact that I've helped so many people. And that's what I continue to do with my YouTube channel. I really like helping businesses and people, advance.
So this has been awesome. just to even catch up. And I mean, like we've met in person, and I didn't even know about that, the whole rolling up the painting and like that pivotal point. And so I
never told that story on a podcast. This is awesome. The only podcast that's ever been told on. So you get exclusive rights to that story.
I like it. I love it. So what's next before I let you go? Like what plans do you have for the YouTube channel, or, what's next for you and your agency?
Yeah. What's next is, I'm continuing to grow my agency, and, so if there are any clients out there who'd like to work with me, please, give me a ring through my website. And I'm going to take my teaching, the help that I'm giving people in YouTube to another level. I'm going to be developing a webinar that's a paid for video course in branding, hopefully a series of those over time. So developing some training products is really my next step. On the tail end of that, I have a book in the works. So a book will be quickly on the tail of that. And, continuing to grow and to learn new things and to try new things. That's what I love about, the speed and movement of the, design and branding world now, is that things change and morph so quickly. Keeping up with it all and staying current, staying on trend is a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. And, so that's what's next for me, to develop some products and that are evergreen, that can work for me when I'm not working, is kind of the next goal.
Awesome. So thanks again for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun.
And so where can folks reach out to you aside from your YouTube channel? I know you mentioned your newsletter. Is that where people would find out about all these ongoing things as well?
Yes, that's the place. The best place is to subscribe to my newsletter. And as I said, it's philipvandusen.com/muse, M-U-S-E, and you can subscribe. Everything that I do basically comes out on that in one way or another, or is, announced on that one way or another. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel. If anyone wants to see my work or read a little bit more about my history, or see the clients I've worked with, or, the methodology that I use, or engage me as a consultant, go to my website. It's all there, philipvandusen.com.
Awesome. And I'll put all of these in the show notes, obviously. And again, thanks, Philip, for being here. And everybody else, it's your time to live in the feast. Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode, then head on over to liveinthefeast.com and subscribe. Leave Philip and I a 5-star rating and review in iTunes, as it's going to help others find this episode too. Next week, I'll be back with Paul Jarvis. Yes, the one and only Paul Jarvis, talking about his freelance life and how he's pivoted his business to shape his lifestyle. Until then, it's your time to live in the feast.